Hello and welcome to the Candidates Forum. I'm Jared Fry, General Manager of Medina TV.
And I'm Jacqueline Rixmeyer with the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce. We are excited once again to partner with Medina TV to bring you the 2023 Candidates Forum. All candidates in contested races were invited to participate this year.
Yes, and the views of those candidates are not necessarily those of the Greater Medina Chamber of Commerce or Medina TV.
Thank you for tuning in to watch our 2023 Candidates Forum. We appreciate your willingness to be informed about the upcoming election.
Joining us now in studio is Kevin Hutchinson, the candidate for City Council at Large. Kevin, thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. Why don't you start and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Let's see. I was born and raised in Connecticut. Went to school in Boston, Massachusetts, and studied engineering there, and went out to California and worked for a company out there as a design engineer in the nuclear industry, and enjoyed doing that. Met my wife out there, and when the opportunity came up, we moved back to Ohio, and that would be about 1990, and we raised two boys. They went through the school system, and recently, about 8 years ago, we moved over to the west side of the city, and we had restored an old Victorian house, and now my wife has a small business there, so we're very much a part of the city life now in Medina.
So what made you decide to run for the office of Council at Large?
Well, a number of years ago, I think largely it was triggered when we bought that property on the west side. It was an old, it was called Gallery Blue, and it was a historic building, and I got very interested in the history, and took an active interest in the Historic Preservation Board, and then things kind of developed from there. As I started to get to know some of the people that worked within the city, I realized that one of the areas where I could help and serve the most would be on City Council.
Mm-hmm. And for the folks and the residents and the viewers at home that may not know, kind of explain the role of a city council person.
Sure. The city is basically divided into 4 wards, Ward 1, 2, 3, and 4, and those ward councilmen operate within kind of a boundary in their area, and they're very detail specific. The City Council also has 2 at-large members, and those at-large members can operate across ward lines, and there are a lot of projects that come up where that becomes important. So not only can an at-large member help a ward member, but they can become actively involved in projects that are going on through economic development programs. That would be one example where projects might touch multiple wards.
Mm-hmm. So as if elected as City Council at Large, you'll be faced looking at the city as a whole. What do you think is probably the biggest issue the city faces right now?
Well, one of the, I would say, the city is really already kind of a well-oiled machine. They have been involved in working on many issues, and for a long period of time. I think one of the things that a couple of the things that have happened over the past few years would be the deer population, trying to manage the deer population effectively. There's been a merger of the municipal courthouse with the county courthouse, and there have been discrimination policies that have been put in place, and those things, although the dust has settled on some of those, there are a few that are still going to be active over the next couple of years. Medina is going to be looking at putting in a hotel. There are going to be a lot of issues that come up as a result of the hotel moving in on South Court Street, and there's going to be some new buildings down along West Liberty Street for businesses and for living. So I think that there there's going to be, construction, new projects and development that are going to be taking place there, and it's going to require the involvement of all of the ward members and the council at large.
Now, you kind of touched on the courthouse with the municipal court joining in with the common pleas court in the county court system over there. That's a good example of the collaborations that happen within the city. Right. How important for all the different projects that happen in the city are those collaborations?
Well, I think they're very important. By collaborating with the county, with Medina County and actually other townships, it's a way that we can operate more efficiently and save considerable dollars, millions of dollars over periods of time. Another good example of collaboration with other townships would be the development of the joint economic development districts that probably started about 15 years ago, where the city can work with other townships to attract businesses, and through a joint agreement, both parties, the township and the city, can generate additional revenues to really effectively income revenues that help keep down the income rate to probably one of the lowest in the state. I think it's a cornerstone. Economic development is a cornerstone for the city that makes living and working in Medina very, very attractive. Mm-hmm.
Now, you touched on one of your earlier answers, some of the issues the city has faced in regards to animals. Mm-hmm. Some of those being the feral cat situation, the feeding of the wild animals. Let's start with those two first. What are your thoughts with those?
Sure. I think there is a program, largely volunteer, for the feral cat program, and I sat in on a number of those council meetings, mm-hmm. and I think it's a very effective program. That feral cats were becoming an issue, but a group of volunteers got together and they worked very diligently to get that situation under control. So that's one example. With the city's support, that program will continue, but beyond the feral cats, there are the deer program is a big one. A lot of people talk about it. It can be polarizing. But I think that the city has an obligation to maintain the deer population and to not just simply allow it to get out of hand. There's a number of different ways that can be done, and one of those is already on the ballot for November. So I think the voters are going to speak in November about bow hunting, mm-hmm. and a culling program. But there's more to it than that. There are other ways that the deer population can be managed. I think that in the end, it's not going to be any one individual program that's going to solve this problem long term. This is the point that we're at right now. But long term, I think that there's a lot of different ways. A lot of people don't know that the deer are actually owned by the state of Ohio. And so the Ohio Department of Natural Resources has a say in how their deer are managed in our city, mm-hmm. even though they're in our city. So they have something to say, and they've given guidelines, clear guidelines on feeding ordinances and culling programs and other things down the road. But there's a sequence to the things that they want to see in place first as we move more and more towards additional programs, mm-hmm. non-lethal programs.
And you will see that deer levy on the ballot this November. Just to clarify for everyone, a yes vote will allow the ordinance that council has in place to proceed and allow for the culling of the deer. A no vote will not allow that ordinance to proceed and will not allow the culling of the deer. So just a quick explanation there for the folks at home as they head to the ballot box, where they will see also Kevin Hutchinson here on the ballot running for city council at large. So with an issue like this, the voters are going to speak. You're going to get to see whether it passes or fails. In a unique situation, because a lot of times, a lot of things the council does, you guys voted through. This is one where you get to hear the constituents speak. How important is it for you as, if elected, listening to those constituents?
Well, I think it's very important, and I think in this particular race, I think I'm the one candidate that is effective at listening to everybody. I will go out and talk to each individual with differing opinions so that I can get the scope of what people are thinking and why. You have to be able to define a problem accurately in order to come up with an effective solution. So one of the points that I'm campaigning on is clear, concise communications, and being able to go out and listen to people in the community and talk with them is very, very important. We may not always be able to do everything that one individual might want, but being able to talk to them about that and maybe explain that what is right, what the right solutions are for the city is important. People want to be heard. They want to make sure that they're understood and heard. So I think it's important that you get out and you're a part of that community.
So how would you handle the situation? Because obviously people aren't always going to agree on everything. So how do you handle that with the constituents when there might be a various opinion on a situation, and then also within council as you try to get things passed or work ordinance throughs where there might be disagreement?
Sure. I think disagreement, it's going to happen. In a city the size of Medina, 26,000 people, you're going to have some people on different ends of the spectrum. But in some recent cases, I've gone out and talked to people that were felt very strongly about a particular issue. And when I was able to listen to them and talk to them and explain some things, the picture became more clear to them. It may not have been what they wanted to hear, and it may not support what they want, but they appreciated the fact that somebody was able to get out, talk with them, and cleanly, concisely tell what the situation was. And I think that they appreciate that. I think they appreciate that a lot.
Now, in terms of council, though, when you have to work on things in legislation, there'll be disagreements. How do you work through situations like that?
Well, that's a good point. I think in this particular race, this is a nonpartisan race. So I know that partisanship can be polarizing, but that's not what this position is about. This position is largely about conducting the business of the city, managing the income coming into the city, and managing the budgets for expenditures, the expenditures of the city. So this is like managing a business, and that's 90% of the job. The other 10% of the job are going to be these issues, the social issues that come up where people might have strong opinions, and you have to pull them together and then ultimately do what's right for the city. But in a nonpartisan position, the best candidate and the right candidate for this job is going to be the person that can sit down and work with people on ideas and policies, and not be anchored down to a far left or a far right position.
Great. And we're speaking with Kevin Hutchinson, the candidate for City Council at large. So, Kevin, what would be one of the biggest things that you would like to accomplish if elected as council at large?
Well, I think one of the most important things to accomplish, again, is to be able to would be to serve the 26,000 people that live in the city. I think that I would want to support the mayor's office. I would want to support the department heads that have staffing and equipment needs to maintain streets and parks and all those things that actually help the city to be what it is. The city is really fast becoming a destination place, and that takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of coordination. So it may not be the answer everybody wants to hear. It's always nice to have a great big project in your back pocket that you want to talk about, but to be able to maintain and incrementally continue to move forward the city is probably one of the most important things.
Now, you mentioned in one of your earlier answers, working, as you described, the 4 wards plus the 2 at-large council members, working with ward members to get things accomplished. How do you handle that balance of looking as a council at large member, as the council as the whole along with the needs of those wards?
Well, I think, again, it goes back to open communications. I already have developing relationships to varying degrees with all of the ward representatives right now. And so I think when you can communicate respectfully and effectively with the ward members, then you're able to talk about things going on in their ward. When you support them, when they need support, I think they appreciate that. They appreciate the approach.
And City Council has long ago adopted the 5-year budget process, where you give a 5-year outlook, proceeding forward the money from the general funds and different enterprise funds that we have. What are your thoughts in terms of that 5-year plan?
Well, there's a couple of thoughts. First, it's worth mentioning that there's very, very few cities in Ohio that have adopted not only a 5-year rolling plan, but it's an active plan, but they also have the 5-year history. So whenever you go to budget meetings and you sit down and you look at things, you're able to see what occurred over the past 5 years and what it is that's being projected in the upcoming years, whether it be large equipment pieces to support streets maintenance or forestry or whatever it might be. So not very many cities have that. In addition, a lot of government agencies have a policy where the budget is established and you're given a certain amount of money and you're told to use it by the end of the year, use it or lose it. And Medina is one of only two cities in the state that actually don't do that. They have carry forward programs where each department head has their budget and they are forced to plan out for capital expenditures, and so they have the ability to, if there are any reserves in a given year, they can collect those and save them up so that for years down the road they can buy some capital equipment that might be planned or needed. And so very, very few cities adopt that program.
Yeah. Again, we're speaking with Kevin Hutchinson, the candidate for City Council at large. And Kevin, I want to thank you for taking the time to answer my questions I had for you. I want to give you the opportunity, though, in case there's anything you missed or anything you want to tell the voters directly. I'm going to give you the floor and let you say what you'd like.
Sure. Appreciate that. I think this is an important position. We have somebody that was in the position for a long period of time that's stepping down. And this position is about ideas, it's about business management, and it's about understanding income and budgets and business. So out of all of the candidates that might be running for this position, I think I'm the best suited to be able to do this. I think my business background is very strong. I've worked in a very, very conservative business most of my life, and that requires being able to talk to people. It requires being able to look at all options of a given situation and take a look at risks and benefits and what's best before you put things into place. So I think I'm the candidate that can do that for the city.
Great. Again, Kevin Hutchinson, the candidate for City Council at large. And Kevin, I want to thank you for taking the time to speak with us here today, and I want to wish you the best of luck this November.
Thanks very much, Jared. Appreciate it.